What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the biker channel, B1. Today, we're on the 28th episode. Imagine that. I got it on the first try. The 28th episode of the BiKER Bar. And this is a long format podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with it, goes usually about 1 to 2 hours long. It's on here live on YouTube right now. It's usually every Sunday at 5 p.m. PST. But today, we're doing something a little special because Super Bowl's tomorrow, and we figured there may or may not be the largest TV event in the nation going on, so we should probably reschedule the BiKER Bar around that. So here we are on Saturday, the 2nd of February, and I have today's guest is Dusty Betty and her husband Steve. But before we get started, I just wanted to throw a couple of things out there. If the first thing I want to say is thank you all to anybody that decides to throw up a super chat like Brian T already did. I really appreciate them. Usually during the show, I don't have the opportunity to really call people out. Doesn't really work that well with the format. And also, I know that Dusty Betty's crowd is a little bit more of a PG crowd. I will let you guys know right now, I'm notorious for letting the F-bomb slip. So if you're a young kid, you're going to have to put the earmuffs on here and there, or just be aware that I'm a bad example of how to speak properly. With that being said, I don't have a sponsor, but I am wearing this awesome Tasco hat today. Has the black flag on. I figured I'd mention that because Dusty Betty is also a Tasco ambassador. So I figured I should go ahead and throw that on. And also, they sent me some t-shirts lately. I'm really, really digging this one that they sent me. It has it's kind of like a wicking material and cotton. So you can wear it during the ride, and it dries out quick, doesn't like chafe on you, but also looks pretty cool then whenever you're getting tacos and burritos afterwards. So also, my Instagram is at BikerB1, so B1KER B1. I'm trying to grow that, and my Facebook. So if you get a chance, go ahead and swing by there. Or if you want to make this podcast more popular, do me a favor and go to whatever format that you watch it on, whether it's Google Play or iTunes or SoundCloud. I think those are the three that I have it put up on, and do a review. That would be great. When I search mountain biking on those podcast search engines right now, they're not coming. This isn't coming up because I don't have enough view or enough ratings. So you guys give more ratings, then I'll come up higher on the list. That will make me happy. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'll let Dusty Betty and her husband Steve just go ahead and give me a little intro on your channel, and we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Tess. It's actually like people who actually know me know that my name is Tess, but my channel is Dusty Betty because Betty is slang for female. So Dusty Betty is any lady who's out there getting dusty, hitting a single track. And yeah, on my channel, I just kind of cover a lot of my adventures mountain biking, my experiences as I learn and grow as a rider and as a bike mechanic. My husband, Steve, and I travel full time. And so Steve's a pretty big part of my adventure because we do pretty much everything together. So yeah, that's us.
And then you also have a new addition to the channel. What's that behind you there?
Yeah, this is little Dusty. And yeah, as you can tell, she's a pretty new addition to the family. And so it's kind of a new dynamic, fun, but we're loving it and life is good. Yeah.
Those of you guys that are listening, the babies are like putting up the cutest smile right now. If that doesn't get me like at least 4 or 5 more thumbs up than we have right now, that you guys are doing it wrong. So how old is the baby?
She's about 3 months now.
So it's 3 months.
Yeah, she's getting really fun.
The last time that I saw you guys, we were riding Downeyville, and you hadn't announced that yet. And it's definitely for the people that don't know you, you guys are traveling, like literally traveling. What are you sitting in right now?
Yeah, so right now we're in our travel trailer, which is our house on wheels. Then we tow it with a truck, and we move sometimes every month, sometimes every few days, just depending on what's going on. But yeah, we live on the road full time, really. Steve has a mobile job, and I do Dusty Betty stuff now, obviously trying to juggle it with this, but I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, it's good.
So you guys used to have an Airstream. What was it like getting rid of that?
It was bittersweet. It was a beautiful, beautiful trailer. But the rig we have now, which if you we have another YouTube channel called More We Explore, and that's where we cover more of our like lifestyle stuff. You'll get to see things like, you know, what our new trailer is like. And we got a trailer that has room for the bikes inside of it, which is pretty sweet. So we're digging
is it a toy hauler where like the whole back end opens up, or is it actually a camper?
Yeah, it's a toy hauler style trailer, and it's, even though the Airstream, you can't beat those things for charm and beauty. They've got that awesome mid-century modern kind of look to them. But this is a lot more open feeling, which is really nice, you know, working on the bikes on a rainy day in here, or for, you know, with having a little kid, it gives her a little more room to stretch out. So it's good.
Airstreams are awesome, but they're kind of trendy right now, and I kind of like doing what other people aren't doing. It's kind of the trailer to have right now, and this allows us to live the lifestyle we want more. The Airstreams are cool and they're fun to be in, but we don't travel so we can be in an Airstream. We travel so we can mountain bike and kayak and hike and backpack and get out there, and this trailer allows us to do it a lot better than an Airstream would.
Yeah, it's definitely suiting our needs better now, which is, you know, that kind of wins out. We want to be traveling and riding where the weather is good. And so
how big is the trailer you guys are in?
What is it? Maybe 25?
It's 25.
Feet?
Yep.
Yeah. From bumper to ball.
Still pretty small.
Yeah. And you're pulling that with what?
We have a Tundra.
So you guys got rid of the Airstream and the van.
Yeah. You wouldn't recognize us if you saw us, Robert.
Well, and one of the things that was nice about the van before is that you guys could let go of the trailer and then use the van to sleep in. I guess you had to give that up in order to have a baby, or just wasn't feeling like you needed it as much.
Yeah, we would have had to make some pretty serious modifications to create a place to put a car seat in that van, just because we'd modify the interior more like camper style. So so we just decided, well, let's get a truck. And so now we can still sleep in the back of the truck. It has a shell on it, but it's not set up like a camper. It'll be more like car camping when we kind of go off in that, which is okay. We love the truck. I mean, every time we climb in that truck, we're like, I love this truck.
Yeah, we love it. And van life is so strong right now. We sold that van, a 20-year-old van with 180,000 miles on it, for more than a brand new Tundra cost.
Oh,
so
wow.
We were able to sell the van and buy a brand new Tundra cash and have money left over for mods. So it was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
yeah,
granted, it was a really valuable van. Like, Steve really did the research, and, you know, so there were things about that, like the motor and things like that, made it a very desirable van, even though it was 20 years old.
Yeah, I remember when you guys put it up for sale, I was definitely like, man, could I do this? I don't know.
It was pretty sweet. And you couldn't beat the way that the bikes just slid in, like, so easy.
That.
We do miss that.
I've been trying to like prime Katie on some van life stuff, and she's not buying into it yet. So
it's not cheap, man. They're expensive.
Yeah, no, it is. And you know, I was even talking to a friend of mine recently, Moonlight Leatherfoot, he's on my channel a bunch, about, hey, maybe we should just go buy a van together, and, you know, something that's got a boatload of miles on it, because we're not going to use it all the time. That's the part that's hard for me, where it's like,
yeah,
if I was going to go out and like be living in it like full time, you know, like something like you guys or single track sampler, like, it would be real easy to justify. But to go out and spend, I mean, even like $30,000-$40,000 for something that's probably going to be like a weekend trip here or there,
totally,
that doesn't really make a lot of sense, you know.
People get like slide-in truck campers and slide them in the back of their truck. You can find them used for like $5,000. It's way more comfortable than a built-out van, and then you can take it off when you're not living in it and still have your truck back to normal.
It's funny you say that. I actually was looking at some of those too. You could find some for like $3,000-$4,000. I think you said $5,000 just a second ago, but
yeah.
And anyways, but then I need to have a spot to put this huge box, right? So
that's true.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, you know, every time you go to make a purchase, you start out with, I'm going to do this the cheap way. And then you get like to the stupid expensive way. And then you try to like bring yourself back. So what I was telling myself recently was maybe buying one of those like canvas toppers for the back of my truck, and then have some modular pieces that I could slide in to the bed of my truck. That's like a place to sleep and some storage, and then something where my bike would be able to slide in. And I could throw that thing on when I wanted to, be able to have it like built out so it's pretty comfortable for me to sleep in and my bike, and maybe make it room for 2 people to sleep in. I don't know. And then have a roof and everything like so you just go somewhere, park, you know what I mean? Not have to set up camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to be said for the simplicity and cheapness of a tent too, though. If you want to go camping bad enough, for all the listeners out there, you don't need a $40,000 setup. Get a $200 tent, a good sleeping bag and pad, and there's so many amazing camp spots. We actually miss camping, living in the trailer so much. We don't consider this camping. And so we try to plan time to go live in the tents, because just hearing the nature sounds and smelling the campfire and just being out in nature.
It's different.
It's so different. And these campers just kind of, even the van would like block it all out, and it wasn't the same to us. So we're not complaining. We love our setup, but it's not a substitute for camping for us, for sure.
But it's crazy because some of those vans are sweet, but they are expensive. Like you were saying, you and a buddy were talking about getting one, and it's not a bad idea, because that's how people do like houseboats. That's how people do any boats, really. Like I'm from Northern California, and like usually people would go in on a boat with 3 of their best friends, and then they'd all take turns going out on the Delta,
Yeah, exactly. Is that same idea.
Smart thing to go in on with someone if you were going to go that route, because those vans, the nice ones, are pricey.
Vans suck to work on, though, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the YouTube money truck to show up, and then I won't have to worry about it.
We're waiting for that one
too. How many subscribers are you guys at now?
16,000 on Dusty Betty.
And how's the More You Explore doing?
30.
We have 34. We're close to 35,000 now.
Have you guys got to the point where you're starting to do more content up there? I know the last time I talked to you, it seemed like Dusty Betty was kind of like taking all the time, and then More You Explore was kind of taking a back seat.
We have more passion about mountain biking than talking about trailers, but the people on the More We Explore want to see trailer life stuff. And pretty much Dusty Betty's Tess's full-time job, in addition to being a full-time mother. And to me, the More We Explore is like what I do after my 40-hour-a-week job when I'm not writing. And lately, work's just been so crazy. It's been hard. I've probably got 20 videos in the hopper that I need to edit, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So we still do both. I do the More We Explore now. Tess does Dusty Betty, but I still
he has
film.
To juggle it. Like
for Dusty Betty, I'm still the one holding the camera. I'm still follow camera wing with her. I still help her edit. We do a lot of it together. Tess is just the beauty.
A lot of irons in the fire. So it's tricky. Like, I mean, ideally we like to get a video per week up on each channel, but the More We Explore, like a lot of times if something has to get kicked off the priority list, sometimes it
always the More We Explore.
The More We Explore one, yeah.
But it's in a healthy spot. Like I used to chase subs, and there's more I could do to get subscribers, but I've stopped trying that. It sounds like a cop-out for being jealous that I don't have more subs, and maybe it is, but it's big enough now that I can get what I need out of it, and we can connect with a lot of people. We have great sponsors. It doesn't bring in a lot of money, but in order to do... One month we were super successful on that channel, but in order to do what it took to be successful that month, it would ruin our quality of life. And it's tempting, because it'd be fun, but it's not tempting enough to walk away from my 9-to-5 job with benefits and awesome pay and retirement and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's alluring enough to be like, hey, I might think about that, but I don't know. It's so volatile. Some months it's great and some months it's not.
And I feel like the community surrounding mountain biking is a lot more rewarding. And so what we put into Dusty Betty, like we feel like we get a lot more out, not just in terms of money, because it's not a huge money maker right now, but yeah, like the community side of it is a lot more rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
So where are you guys at in the States right now?
We are in Tucson, Arizona. So this is our 3rd time wintering in Tucson. We've come the last 3 years. We spend like 2 months here and love it. There's some great trails, and because we've been coming here for so many years, we have a lot of friends in the riding community. So it's great because we always have people to ride with. And I feel like
are you guys like at like a mobile home, like trailer park, or like?
Yeah, we're trailer trash.
Yeah. So like sometimes we're in places where we can be in those beautiful, pristine locations, camping, with beautiful red rock behind us. But sometimes when we're in more urban areas like Tucson, we're in a park. We're in an
like,
RV park.
like a KOA kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need internet full time for my job, so I can't just drive in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell service and work. So it sounds glamorous, like I'm probably off playing in the mountains every day, but usually we're in the suburbs. It just depends.
Yeah.
We've got some cool technology to make it possible to have service where most people wouldn't, but there are still limitations to this life, and we love them, but you just trade one set of problems in a traditional life for a different set of problems, and we like this set of problems better than living in a house.
Yeah, it's an interesting process, like planning the travel, because like if we're looking at going somewhere where we're going to be camping outside of town, the first thing that we have to do before we get there and even decide where we're going to camp is, I have to go and check online what the cell signal is in that specific location, because we have to be connected for work.
And van life and RV life is so popular with baby boomers retiring now and the younger millennials starting to do this. We're having to book our sites 4 to 6 months in advance. And so we really don't have the freedom to just kind of wander into a town, find a park, set up. Who knows if we'll stay for a week or 4? You have to book it because there's no more spots. And it's getting tricky. And so the news is out and people have caught on. And and this park we're at right now next year is turning into a 55 and older park. So we're kicked out. We're not allowed to stay. So I don't know. It's getting harder to live this lifestyle. We still love it, but it's getting so populated that even like our campgrounds where there used to be 1 or 2 people now a big YouTuber will throw up the GPS coordinates and there'll be 50 people there when we go next time, and there's just garbage everywhere and it's just overrun. And I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. So I don't mean to sound overly negative, but it's not like the Instagram pictures make it look like.
Yeah.
It's
reality.
The van lifer is definitely like, it's all like drone shots and bikinis, and then they never show the like, I pooped in a can because we don't have a toilet in here.
Yeah, for sure.
And some parts of the US are better than others. This year we're going back east, and we're from our last house was in Utah, where it's 70% federal land. And so 70% of the state you can camp in. Just pull off a dirt road and camp there. Going back east, that is not the case. So we have to know exactly where we're going to be every day, book way in advance, sometimes pay up to $40 a night to get a spot. And so and then when you're towing, if you hit a toll road, they charge you per axle. So we've got 4 axles. So sometimes to cross a bridge, it's $80. And so, stuff like that, It surprises you, but it adds up. But we're excited to see our fans on the East Coast. We haven't spent enough time out there to connect with everybody yet.
But that's definitely something that I'm working on while we're in Tucson, is starting to lay more of our plans for the summer, because going back east, it's a lot harder to wing it. I mean, the smaller your rig is, the easier it is, because sometimes parks will have, if you have a short rig, you can fit in any spot. But if you have, a longer rig, you need a long spot, if you're at a campground. So so we kind of have to lay a lot of that stuff out ahead of time, and it's a lot of work, but yeah, we're excited. We're excited to go back east for sure.
So when you started your channel, Dusty, Tess, I'm like mixing up Dusty, Betty, and Tess at the same time.
That works.
So Tess, when you started your channel, did you like set out to do like a woman specific channel, or you were just like, hey, I want to do a mountain biking channel and I'm just a woman?
Yeah, Steve and I, when we started traveling full time, we already had the More We Explore, that YouTube channel going. And the more we started traveling, the more we started mountain biking and getting more and more into it. And so when we post videos on the More We Explore, that audience was mostly interested in the RV lifestyle. And so they're like, I don't want to watch you ride bikes. And I'm like, well, I want to ride bikes. So, Steve didn't really have time or bandwidth to do another channel, but I just thought, well, then, I'll start one with kind of focus on the women's stuff, and Steve can help me when he can. But it's an opportunity to kind of focus on that perspective. But obviously like being my travel companion, Steve's still like, you know, he's on the channel, but yeah, I wanted to kind of do something for me. Like I came into mountain biking with a lot of timidity, and it's still something that I work on, and I know a lot of other women do too. And so I know that, like, you know, there are a lot of awesome like girls out there who just have no fear and they'll just huck themselves at things. And I think that's awesome, and I really admire that. But I think that there are also people who will be able to relate to me. So I thought, you know, I'll share it.
It's a fun balance. Yeah, Tess definitely went into it with the women's perspective. The story wasn't being told, and a lot of women don't feel comfortable going into a bike shop or
working on their bike
or going to a group ride not knowing who's going to be there. And this isn't like a gender equality thing. It's just a lot of our friends that are girls don't feel comfortable with that. And so Dusty Betty's a great place for either guys who are trying to get their girl stoked on riding to bring their girl over there, or for girls that are already stoked or getting used to it, to see another girl like them struggling with similar things, who's not doing backflips, but who's riding regular trails and getting better every day. It was a great opportunity for that. And it's interesting because I have enough mountain bike content. I want to pop in on the channel every now and then and do stuff. Like I'm getting a new bike and I can't wait to build it up. And I'd love to release that on Dusty Betty, but it doesn't really fit in with the whole, you know, women's mountain biking thing. And YouTube is funny. If you start fragmenting your channel too much, you get a whole bunch of followers, but then they all come looking for 1% of what you offer, and they get mad when the other 99% isn't what they do. So
tell me about it. I was doing all POV videos and then started doing a 2-hour podcast. So so it's definitely like, you know, when I'll put out a new POV video and it gets, you know, another 100 or 200 subscribers because of that. And then the next thing that they see comes on Sunday night and it's 2 hours long, just me talking to somebody. They're like, what the heck is going on here? You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's, you know, it's tough too, you know, it's like, it's like on one hand, yeah, I mean, you guys definitely more doing it for a business than me, but on the other hand, you're like, I just want to have fun with what I'm doing. But if you don't have that growth in your channel and people being excited about it, then it kind of takes away from the fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yeah.
And it is time consuming too. So it's like, I mean, at a certain point, I mean, it needs to be worth it, because, you know, when I create videos, I also try to create videos that I think people are going to want to see. That's a big part of it. But the motivation to do that completely goes away if you know that there's no one on the other end, like, watching the content. You'd be like, whatever, you know?
And there are things you can do to grow a YouTube channel faster, like clickbait titles and emojis in the thumbnail and high drama. And we're not willing to do that. And
yeah, it's just kind of not our style.
It also brings authenticity, and it's something that our sponsors actually prefer. Like, they're okay. We have enough subscribers that they're plenty fine with us doing what we do. And we're not better than people who have more subscribers. I'm not trying to say that, but it's a different strategy. Is we're not. I mean, we would love more subscribers. So everyone listening, head over to Dusty Betty and subscribe.
But yeah, they hate subscribers.
There are things you can do to get more subscribers, but quality of subscriber is way more important than number of subscriber to us. And we've hung out with some YouTubers who have so many subscribers and their fans show up. And I'm just thinking, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with those fans. Because it's not the audience we're going for. And so anyway, sounds negative. That's not to throw anyone under the bus, but we are very particular about having strong fans with a strong message, more than, oh, I hope I can trick somebody into clicking my video who wouldn't otherwise be interested in it, hoping that I can, you know, beg them for a subscription that they may never watch again. So
yeah, I really want to, like, maintain, like, my own authenticity. And so if that's not what people are coming for, then it's like, you know, like, a lot of it used to be, you know, when you searched women's mountain biking on YouTube, it used to just, like, the top, like, 2 pages of results were like chicks in bikinis on bikes and crap like that. And I was just like, I'd love to change that. And the cool thing is when you search women's mountain biking on YouTube now, like it has changed a lot. So yeah, every now and then like someone will stumble onto it hoping for the chicks in bikinis on bikes, and you can spot them a mile away with the things they say in the comments, and it's just kind of like whatever. And they burn out, they lose interest, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it was interesting what you're saying too about, you know, staying true to who you are, because honestly, I have the same kind of situation. I mean, my sub count is really low compared to how long I've been doing this, but the subscribers on my channel are like super engaged, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things that I have to have a conversation with, like sponsorship type of deals where it's like, look, you can't judge me on my numbers. You know, you have to really look at how engaged my people are. And then on the other hand, it's just like what you said, like, I don't want to really change who I am, and who I am is the guy that's like making inappropriate jokes and like dropping the F-bombs and this and that and the other. And that's just like, that's me. Right. So I could definitely like clean it up and probably get a lot more subs, but what's the cost of that? The cost of that is like not being genuine, you know?
Yeah. And it's cool that it's nice to be something that like when your viewers get to connect with you in person, like they're like, it's Robert, you know, they're not like, who is this person, you know?
Right.
Your fans are so loyal, and they'll be loyal forever. You don't have to worry about like ticking off 80% of your viewership one day with something you said. You know they're going to come back because they know you. And
they already know that I'm going to say something ignorant.
We all do. And that's what's scary about YouTube is it's recorded forever, and it was captured in the moment you were speaking, but it's out there forever for other people to tell you you're an idiot over and over and over.
Yeah.
And we all do dumb things.
Yeah, I just do a lot of them, a lot of dumb things.
But you know, vulnerability, there are some people who on their channel will edit out any crash or any mistake or they'll like take 40 takes to get something perfectly right. And that's cool too. But there's something to be said for everyday vulnerable people getting out there and putting it out there. And, you know, I mean, viewers could use a little bit more tact in realizing that people are putting it all out there, and cut people some slack, but people are getting a lot better than they used to.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, doing this channel has been really good. It was kind of scary for me. I was like, I want to do a women's mountain bike channel, but I was like, but yeah, maybe I'll do it someday, but I really want to do it, but I'll do it someday. And Steve's like, if you're going to do it, just do it. But the real big hang up for me was that side of like being vulnerable. Like it was easier to just kind of, on the more we explore, I could hide behind Steve a little bit more. So putting myself at the forefront, like I don't really feel like I'm a big attention seeker, you know, like, but I am passionate about mountain biking, and I love being able to share my story. And so it's provided me with like an opportunity for a lot of personal growth, like putting myself out there. And, you know, like people have opinions about my riding and the bikes that I ride and if I deserve this or that. And, you know, I can't believe that you blank, you know, like it's just, there's always going to be those people out there, but it's been good for me. And I'm glad that I do it because, you know, when I actually get to connect with women on the other side of my content, and even some guys, and they say, you know, I love what you're doing, or, you know, you inspired me to ride more, or, you know, I never really thought about developing skills. And now, you know, I'm going to a clinic. And so, yeah, like that's what it's all about. And that's why I do it. I don't love the attention, but I love inspiring people and being something that's relatable for them.
Somebody asked something in the comments that's actually pretty, you know, intriguing to ask. What percentage of your viewers are female on Dusty Betty? Do you know?
I haven't looked at the stats for a while.
Yeah, we play that card pretty close to the vest, but it's growing every day.
But I have compared privately with some of my other friends who have YouTube channels.
Because mine's like 1% or less. So
I do have a much bigger slice of female viewers than any of the other.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a male-dominated sport, and so and I would imagine, you know, trying to kind of make that to be like, oh no, she has 70% women. No, it's not going to happen. It's just
and YouTube's super male-dominated. Girls don't just hop onto YouTube to watch mountain biking. And that's starting to change, but the things that girls watch on YouTube is very different than what guys watch.
I think you
Even
just have to
though,
look
like,
at the demographics. I mean, even when you go ride, I mean, it's not like there's more. If there's like, say there was 10 people in your group and there was 2 or more girls there, like that would be pretty much like, oh wow, where'd they come up with all those girls at? You know?
Sure. I will say when we put together group rides or when we're out on the trail and Tess organizes a ride, there's usually 5+ women on every ride. It's awesome.
It's really cool. Like I love doing co-ed rides because it's just kind of a great representation of just the mountain biking community in general. But it is cool to see. I feel like just in the short number of years that I've been riding, I see more and more women out there and more women showing up to co-ed group rides, and it's cool.
I can definitely say in the travel, and I haven't done a lot of traveling, but in the little bit of like traveling that I can get within a tank of gas or so, there's certain areas that definitely have way more women in them than others.
Totally.
Like when I go down to Santa Cruz and ride, like the UC area or something like that, it's like there's a lot of women riding down there.
Yeah.
And then also Oregon too. When I was up there, I noticed a lot more women on the trails.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado's got a ton of
Montana.
women.
Like when you go to Montana, you'll see just as many women at the trailhead as men. And I think Colorado's the same way. It's pretty cool.
Also, a lot of the viewers are watching with their little daughter, which is so cool to hear that, you know, we've got so many guys that say, I watch this with my 6-year-old and she went to the pump track for the first time, or I watched this with my wife and she's finally going to try to get up a curb now because she saw Tess do it. And so what we're seeing is a lot of people are watching it as a group activity, which is really unique.
Yeah, and it's not something that's represented in the demographics, but I'm amazed at when we go to mountain biking festivals and events. Like, I would say that, like, the vast majority of people who approach me and say hi, they're usually couples, which is really cool because, you know, we're a couple who rides together.
I'll tell you right now, I really think, and I'm going to try to bite my tongue for your viewers, I really think that the analytics on YouTube are just full of it because there's so many ways that they can be slanted and just give you inaccurate data. So how many women are watching with their husband on their husband's account? Right. You know what I mean? Like when you see the drop off of, oh, everybody leaves at 6 minutes. I can tell you myself, a million times we'll watch 3 minutes of a video, walk away, come back, watch another 3 minutes of the video, click on something else because I had, you know, I'm doing it while I'm at work. It may take me 4 times to watch a video all the way through. So I'm destroying the analytics myself. So I know if I'm doing it, there has to be tons of other people doing it.
Yeah. And Steve kind of touched on this, but another thing that's interesting is women still engage in the online community differently than men do. And I would say, even though we're seeing more and more women on the trails, I would still say that women are not quite as engaged in the online mountain biking community. That is changing, just like on the trails, but it's not quite the same. Like women, and that was a big part too. I wanted to do a women's mountain biking YouTube channel. Was I wanted to create a space where women felt like, you know, like, I don't know, just like even when you're on Pink Bike, like even though they'll do articles on women and stuff like that, you still just kind of feel like it's a boys' place that girls are at sometimes too, you know. But I wanted it to kind of be flipped, where Dusty Betty is like a women's place that guys are at too, you know. So
yeah. You know, I felt like when I started my channel, and I think this is similar to what you're trying to say, but like when I started my channel, what I was seeing on YouTube wasn't what I was experiencing with my friends, you know. And I think that's, you know, so I was like, I want to show where it's like we're, you know, being unhappy about climbing, or we're, you know, joking around in some rock instead of riding. And like, then maybe we turn around halfway through because we were just like, whatever, it's hot, let's go sit down at the truck and drink beer. Okay. You know, like, and I think it's the same thing with what you're saying is like, you know, you're experiencing this ride that you're doing with other women and your friends and stuff like that. And that wasn't really being represented.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of girls are scared to reply in the comments. They're just not ready yet. But they'll send, I mean, Tess will release a video and get 2 female comments in the comments section and get 20 emails from women saying, hey, I really liked your video, this, I had a couple questions. And Tess will say, post those in the comments. The more girls see other girls posting, the more this will change and the more other people can chime in and help you, but they're just not quite comfortable there yet.
I wouldn't doubt it, though, that part of it is just like, you have to deal with all these dipshit guys out there that are going to like say something to them. Then, you know, it's like, oh, this is not a dating app. I'm trying to ask about, you know, YouTube about mountain biking.
I think that's a big part of it.
Huge.
You know, like it's just, I love the co-ed community, but I still realize that for a lot of women, it's intimidating. So that's a really big part of what I do. Because if you're a woman and you comment on like a channel that's about makeup, you're not worried about like these male trolls like coming in and being rude. Whereas on a mountain biking one, like that's still a concern, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's weird how like people have this like keyboard courage where they'll just say these like ignorant things online where I all the time when I see, I mean, I don't get a whole lot of like bad comments. Honestly, if I do, most of the time I think that they're joking and don't realize that they're actually really trying to make fun of me. But I think that I always think to myself, like, would you say that to me if we were standing in front of each other at the trailhead?
No.
And like 90% of these people wouldn't, you know? And the same thing goes with I'm sure as a woman, like I can only imagine what that's like.
We have to do a lot more pervert monitoring on Dusty Betty than we do on The More We Explore. I'll say that.
Yeah. Like, you know how you in YouTube, like for anyone who's watching, like if you haven't curated a YouTube channel, like you can have words that get flagged in comments and then you have to approve those before they show up. And I've got a list about yay long of words that are flagged. And every now and then a comment will pop up and I'm like, oh, there's a new one to add to the list.
I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, seriously. That's creative.
Yeah.
That's creative.
Yeah.
I love it.
I guess that's the sign you're having more influences when the trolls start coming out.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just part of it, I guess.
Yeah. I think the way that I approach it, they're just like, never mind. Because they'll be like, oh my God, you're so fat. You need to get in shape. And I'm like, I know, right? And they're like, oh, wait, that didn't work.
Like, right? Yeah.
Like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I totally didn't catch that.
And like you said, you know, sometimes you just even if they weren't joking, sometimes you just take it as that. Like, that's a gift. Like, I should be more like that and like not let it get under my skin. Cause it's like,
I mean, there are still comments that I had from like 4 years ago that ring in my head when I have self-doubt and just remind me and make me, you know, lose confidence. And those things stick with people. And like you said, it's never something someone would say to your face, but man, it eats away at your self-esteem. And some people have a really thick skin and I need to grow a thicker skin and good for them.
Yeah.
But it does affect me and it's sad. And, you know, I'll just be sitting there eating lunch one day and then that comment will come back that they made and it'll just ring in my head and get me all down again.
And I'm the same way.
For me, it's not the comments. For me, it's this like, I have this idea of where I want my channel to be and where I think it should be and how I think it should be growing. And I just beat myself up over that. And then give myself anxiety about getting my edits out or not getting them out, or then I don't communicate with people because I got a bunch of anxiety about it. And it really has nothing to do with anything more than just me beating myself up, you know?
It's tough. It feels like you're running for class president and you're not the popular kid at school and someone else is getting votes and you're like, why is nobody voting for Pedro?
Right. But then you think about it and you're like, for instance, I mean, I have 6,200 subscribers. Like, that's a shit ton of people, you know, like
your core subscribers.
That's a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like if I saw 6,000 people standing in front of me, I'd be like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Then you look at somebody, but you're just always constantly judging yourself against somebody else's channel. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, well, they have 15,000 or they have 50,000 or they have 120,000, you know, and just, it's tough not to like set your sights on something that's probably out of reach, especially if you're, you know, managing a family and a full-time job, you know?
Yeah. But so let's play hypothetical YouTube. Let's say we made a video and we're trying to make it as viral as possible, get as many subs as we can, and your thumbnail, we never see this sarcastic emoji here, is this the hardest trail in blank state? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Right.
And then we show a picture of someone crashing with like them with their hands on their face, like, oh my gosh. And then the whole thing is just infused with drama, and you won't believe what happened next. Okay, so you release that video and you get 10,000 subs out of that. Why did they sub?
Yeah, because they want that, you know.
And are you going to do that every video? And do you want to? Some people are, that's their personality. And I know there are things we could do to gain that, but I just think like, and most of the YouTube viewers, and I'm painting with a really broad brush here, and this is just my opinion, but most of YouTube viewers are looking for that sort of thing. They're watching one video off to the side. There's this little thumbnail that they are not really interested in the real content, but the thumbnail and the title's catchy enough. It's almost like a National Enquirer that you'll click on it just out of curiosity, and hopefully the content's good enough to lure you in that you'd want to watch another one. But I don't know. Like, to me, I wouldn't like 10,000 subs that clicked on it because they were expecting some crazy drama and to know if such and such trail really is the hardest one, or I don't know. And so I'm not hating on people that do that, but for us, like, we would get more subs if we did that. Or if Tess was in a bikini in every single one, we'd have way more subs. But at what cost? And so, like, and I don't mean to speak for Tess, we talk about this just about every single night, but our goal is not to make our YouTube channel so big that it pays for itself off of YouTube ad revenue alone. I mean, that would be great, but we are trying to make an impact on the mountain bike community in a long-term way, and YouTube is one way to do that. But what YouTube is doing is opening up doors for us to have conversations with people that we would never have if we weren't influencers. And people have now heard about it. They see the logo, they see it when we go to events. They say, hey, you know, we've been following you. We've got this charity coming up and we'd like you to get involved. And so what it is for us is a passageway to be able to make an impact on girls in the world and let them know that this is a fun way to get out, and couples should do this too, and guys should follow along too. And so our end goal is not grow the YouTube channel as big as possible, as fast as possible. And that would be great. And I'm not, it's not just sour grapes, but kind of our strategy is a little different.
Yeah. And sorry, I know this is like super long-winded, but kind of going back to our experience with our initial YouTube channel, where we had this certain audience that was interested in our traveling lifestyle. And then suddenly, like, we wanted to post more mountain biking stuff and they didn't want to see that. It made me very aware of the idea of what kind of audience I'm cultivating. And I just want to be careful that I'm cultivating the kind of audience that is going to continue to stay engaged in the kind of videos that I want to be making. And so, so that was something that I got out of that experience. And it's something that I have in mind toward as I continue to create content.
When I started my channel, I really started because I just wanted to make videos and I thought it would be fun. And there's a myriad of reasons outside of that, but essentially that was it. And I remember saying, like, I'm not quitting my job anytime soon. I do IT. I make a good salary. Like, it's the bar is set pretty high for YouTube to get me to a point where I can quit. Plus, I live in California. It's freaking expensive out here.
Yeah,
you know. So
change on YouTube in the split second. Like, we don't know what YouTube's going to look like in 3 to 5 years.
Right. I mean, it could just turn into the clickbait like wheelhouse, and if you're not doing that, you're not doing anything. You know,
or they could change one thing about how the payouts happen, and it could turn everything on its head. You just never know.
So, I mean, I think that I forget what my point was at that.
Well,
so
you were in IT and you were waiting for that moment you could go big on YouTube.
Yeah, I think, whenever I started, like, I knew I wasn't going to do that, and then after I started doing it and I was seeing the growth, and I think in my head I started buying into it, like, oh, maybe I can make this happen. Maybe I can. And I was just chasing this dream of something that at this point I've realized it's still not really close to being realistic and anytime soon. So like for me, I recently just had to come to terms with that, you know, and be like, you know what, you need to keep doing this because you enjoy doing this. And if someday it ever got there that, you know, you could quit your job, that'd be awesome. But stop setting your sights on it, because you're just like, it's been 2 years. I have freaking 6,200 awesome subscribers. I am still 6,000 miles away from freaking being anywhere close to even thinking about quitting my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, I just want to make content that I'm happy with. And I just want to like keep building this community and being part of it. You know, like that to me, like I've come to the realization, like, even if I'm the crappiest YouTuber out of the mountain bike YouTubers, like I'm cool with that if it just gets me in the club. You know what I mean?
You're not the crappiest.
You're the man. We love hanging out with you. And I don't know, like it's part of it's in your control and part of it isn't. And yeah, there's no doubt that we would love to see bigger numbers.
Right.
And it's addictive. And when you create stuff, I mean, you put 40 hours into a video and it gets 500 views the first week, and you're just like, geez, what's going on? Like, that took me 40 hours. And how many of those videos does it take to get a free hat from a company or a free set of brake pads? And so people are like, well, at least you're sponsored. And it's like, we are so grateful to our sponsors, and we're pretty picky who we do pick up as sponsors, but it's not like they're just cutting checks to us left and right and giving us unlimited I mean, people, it takes a heck of a lot of work to get to that point. And so when someone asks, should I start a YouTube channel? I'm thinking of, you know, my daughter wants to start a YouTube channel and make some money on it. And I'm like, send her to college and get a real job and then buy whatever you want and don't have to deal with YouTube, because that's way easier.
Yeah, totally. So, I'll tell you guys this. I'm pretty sure I've told you this in person before, but my favorite ride that I did last year, and not the trail itself, but my favorite ride that I did, just like what that day was the day that we went to Downeyville together. And I tell people this all the time, and they always are shocked because you guys are pretty PG compared to me. So they always feel like how did that happen? You know, because you guys are definitely, you know, like on the religious side, and you could tell that maybe I'm a little bit closer to the other side. I don't know.
You're the biggest teddy bear. Robert is such a sweetheart, and you meet him in person. And I mean, you know, it comes through on his channel. He is just the most likable person.
Yeah.
And strong language aside, we don't see ourselves as different people at all. Like you, I mean, yeah. But I think what it really comes down to,
I think what it really comes down to is like just a minute ago, like when you were talking about the channel and everything, like both of you guys, I'm just listening to it, and I was like, I just really like these people, man. Like you guys have that down to earth, like real vibe that is like the people that I hang out with, you know. And I think that when we went out and we had that ride, there was no expectation of how many miles we were going to get in or how fast we were going to go. I mean, we were like tromping through snow up to our knees at some point. We lost the trail. Like it was raining. Like it was like, if you were like setting it up for what a good ride would be, that would be like the worst ride.
Yeah.
You know, but man, we just had such a great time just chatting and talking, and like we all did some things that we maybe didn't want to do, or like didn't feel like we could, or, you know, it was just a really, really good day. And I feel like that's what mountain biking's about. It's not about like going out and seeing how many like miles you can crush, or how big of a backflip you can do, or whatever. Like I tell people all the time, or I've started telling people this because I realized this recently, that I actually don't really care about getting better at riding. Like, yes, I want to like learn how to do this or get better at jumping off of that. But like, that is like the least part of what I'm thinking about when I go riding.
Yeah.
Like some people are going out and they're like, they're just trying to step their game up. And it's like, no, I just want to, if I can ride between 15 and 20, 25 miles, 2,000 to 4,000 feet elevation, that's all I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, just have a good time doing it.
I'm
day,
100%, man.
And that day, like, I agree, man. That was every now and then you go on those rides and you're like, trail magic. Like, that day was trail magic. Like, it was like, people, like, you got to go back and watch the video, because it was just a group of 4 of us, which was just enough people to make it like fun and have people to hang out with. And it was like what do you want to say? It was like shoulder season, before like Downeyville gets really busy. So we kind of felt like we had it to ourselves a little bit.
It was amazing.
It was just such a cool day. It's such a, like just Robert and one other friend and Steve and I, and it was trail magic. That was such a fun day.
But we're with you. That's what makes a ride amazing for us. I had a conversation with someone earlier this week who said, hey, you've ridden with a lot of the YouTubers. Who's the best? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really categorizing people, and everyone has their strengths. And to me, I don't really care who's the best. It's everyone's got their own style. And I've had, even just this week, so many conversations that some people will go on a ride with them, and it's their home trail, and it's always their advantage. We don't know how much energy to exert, because we don't know if a killer climb's coming or a killer downhill is coming. So we just kind of mosey and save our energy depending on what happens. We'll start at the trailhead and boom, they're gone, and we don't see them for 20 minutes. And I'm just like, why are we riding together? Because we have very different conceptions about what a mountain bike ride is. And to me, it's what I do to forget about all the crap in life that gets you down. It's being in nature, but it's being with friends. It's stopping every 10 minutes to session something. It's saying, man, did you almost fly off that corner too? So did I. And it's putting away the stopwatches and the timers and the weighing your bikes. And everyone comes at it from something different.
Yeah.
It's interesting here in Tucson. Yeah, go ahead.
I always say that I ride bikes to get rid of stress, not to make stress.
Yeah.
And when people get like way into it that much, like for me, it's like, dude, you're turning this into a job, man. I'm doing this to forget about everything. I just want to come out here and be like, oh, I got a flat tire. I don't give a crap. We're going to sit here and talk while we change it for 25 minutes and then forget why we stopped. Like it doesn't matter, man.
But there's so many people that, and I don't know if it's the YouTubers they watch or their bike shop or just how they were introduced to it, but their idea of mountain biking is when we get all suited up and we say go, first one to the top wins, and we try to be that first person. And like, to me, that is not who I want to be riding with. And I get that some people get that, and that's cool too, but man, to me, Downeyville is totally what it's all about. And that's what we try to recreate.
The guys that I learned how to ride mountain bike from were like, it was the early 90s. They were, burnout hippies from the 70s. Like they wanted to stop every 30 minutes and smoke a doobie. And I was like, just some little grom that was like, I don't care. I'm here outside. This is cool, and like their perspective of like, hey, did you see that piece of trash on the trail? Pick it up, or like, hey, those are horse people. Stop over here and then ask them what they want to do. And like, be courteous, be part of this community, and don't like dig it into the grave, and I think it's that perspective that I've always just really enjoyed. The group, the guys that I like to ride with, like you were saying, where we come up on some rock and we end up spending like 35 minutes trying to session this thing, and then get to the point where we're like, oh, screw it. Well, I guess we're not doing that ride anymore because the sun's going down, but nobody cares because we just had fun.
Right. That's missing. And that's rare these days, at least with the people we ride with.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys are traveling quite a bit. Where's your like sweet spots? Wherever if you're allowed to say them before everybody else is there.
Wherever it's 70 degrees.
Yeah, we definitely follow the weather. I mean, I always love our 2 months in Tucson, honestly. Like, I love it here because we've been here long enough to kind of zero in and find like our tribe here. Because like in Tucson, there's a lot of road riders who do
Can
some
you explain
biking.
For people that don't know what Tucson's like? Because when they hear Tucson, they think Arizona, and they're either thinking maybe like a Sedona kind of landscape. But Tucson's not like that. It's a little bit more like, it's like high desert, but with pines and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, so down in the valleys, it's interesting. There's a lot more vegetation here than there is in the Phoenix area. That's what most people think of when they think of Arizona. When I say vegetation down in the valley, I mean just tons and tons of cacti everywhere, like lots of saguaro, those big giant ones that look like they have arms. And
typical what you think of in Arizona, you don't find that in Phoenix, but you come south to Tucson, an hour and a half south. We're probably an hour from the Mexican border, but it's probably 3,000 feet elevation around here. So we're high enough to get good rain, and it's all the trails are like covered in kitty litter. So everywhere you go is like a 1/4 inch of kitty litter on top of everything. All the granite just decomposes on it.
And there's also mountains surrounding Tucson. There's like a kind of a lowish mountain range. And then on one side of Tucson, there's this big mountain called Mount Lemmon. And that's where all the downhill kind of esque trails are.
I didn't know there was all that elevation down there. My son's down that way at Fort Huachuca doing some training in the Army. And he came home and he was like, oh man, I wonder what it's going to be like to run here in the with the elevation lower. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like where he's at is like 5,000 feet elevation.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like, I've driven like 10 from Phoenix over to like Texas, you know? And when you're out there on 10, it just looks like everything's flat. There's nothing around. So I totally had no clue that down south that there was like mountains down there.
That's why we love it. You're surrounded by mountains, and some of the best trails in Tucson are under 2 feet of snow right now. We can't ride them.
Yeah, it's crazy up in the mountains.
So 73 degrees today on our ride, and it was beautiful. But way up in the mountains, it's up on Mount Lemmon.
I'll have to get down there. I'm really excited. You know, Arizona really surprised me. I never really even thought about riding there. And then last year when I was heading to Sedona Mountain Bike Festival, I stopped in Phoenix and I rode South Mountain. And that was actually that was my favorite quote unquote ride trail, like for like the trail itself ride last year was just like, I hate climbing obviously, but like, I just was infatuated with how difficult the climbs were because it was like, this was a place where you're like, you just want to keep coming back. Cause you're like, I want to be able to get that one rock today. And maybe next week I can get that one rock, you know? So, and then the downhills were just like, I like that techie, chunky stuff. And it was just so much fun, just so much fun there.
Yeah. I remember seeing your video there, and like, I saw your video just before we went there for the first time. And I agree. Like the kind of climbs that I like aren't just ones that are just agonizingly steep. There's stuff that there's interesting rock features and things like that where you kind of have to pick a line, and some things are session worthy, and maybe you stop and take a couple cracks at something and save something else for the next ride because you couldn't nail it. Like South Mountain has some fun stuff.
It's one of my top 10 trails in the nation for sure. I think that's what all climbs should be like. We rode it 2 weeks ago with the Queen of the Mountain, and there were 4 other women there, and she was encouraging me to try all these cool lines I hadn't seen, and it was so fun to be pushed by such an awesome female rider.
Yeah, and the whole riding, man, there's some really awesome riders in Arizona, and like once you kind of tap into like the right kind of tribe for you, because there's, you know, like I was saying, there's different kinds of mountain bikers. Like you find this amazing community here in Phoenix and in Tucson, and like it's really cool.
So how is it living in this tiny little space raising a baby? Because I know whenever I had a little toddler, I mean you're not there yet. I mean fortunately she's still like, she's probably just getting to the point where she can maybe sit up. Once she starts moving, like, I mean, but even having another person in that space, like, what is that like?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for like 3 years. So for us, like living in this space is pretty normal. But as far as like her development, you know, in this environment, like we're just experiencing it for the first time. I mean, so far it's okay though. It's not been bad. I'm really glad that we got into a trailer that has more room, because now I feel like she has room to learn to crawl and to walk and things like that.
She has room to learn how to work on a mountain bike too. She'd be like, get back there and change those tires.
But we don't know any better because we've been doing it for so long. It's just kind of like, well, you bring a baby home.
Another thing that changes in this lifestyle is we spend way less time indoors than a person in a traditional house. We're at parks, we are at trailheads, we are hiking, we are outside until the sun goes down every day. Mm-hmm. And so we're really only in here for an hour or two till she goes to sleep. It's her bedtime right now, so Sorry. She's a little fuzzy.
No, that's all right. Hey, man, it is what it is.
Authenticity there.
So I totally forgot what I was going to say now.
I know, she threw us off.
Right?
She does that from time to time, but
it's a game changer.
Yeah. But anyway, like we were just talking about little kid in our small space with us, but
and it's pretty different from the norm. But you look 100 years ago and people lived in houses where it was all one room, and I kind of yearn for those days when there was one great room and then bedrooms off to the side of it.
Yeah.
And now it's like everyone go in your corner and don't interact with the person next to you. And there's a separate entertainment room and I'm gonna hand the baby over to you.
I don't know.
So I miss those days when like homes brought people together around the fireplace instead of everyone has a TV in their room and they all scatter and go watch their own show. It really brings us closer together as a family, and we have way less stuff and we have way more time to do what we love because we have less stuff, and we live a debt-free life and we love it.
So how do you guys manage riding between the two of you now?
Ooh, that's been the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I'll let you want me to answer that while you take care of the baby?
I can talk about it. So we just have to take turns now. Oh, sorry. You may have to go outside with her because I think she's trying to drop a deuce.
Oh, I see.
Oh, only on the biker channel do you get the deuce dropping, man. We can do that live.
So there's a lot of tag teaming it for us to both ride. We usually, Steve and I usually get 2 or 3 rides in a week, and we just kind of take turns. We at the beginning of every week, we just kind of sit down and decide who's gonna ride what days. Mm-hmm. And then the other person stays home with baby, and one person gets to go out and ride, hopefully usually with friends. And you may need to take her out.
It's cold outside. She's not gonna like it.
Okay. And then on Saturdays, usually we just pack up the whole family with our lunches and we go ride, and Steve will ride a lap and then I will ride a lap. And so we just kind of make the most of it, do the best we can.
So what are you riding nowadays, Tess?
Bike. What bike am I riding?
Yeah.
I am riding a Spot Rollick 607 right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 151. It's a 150 bike with a 160 fork.
And that's a 27.5?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So do either one of you guys ride 29ers? Because you guys are both a little shorter than me. I remember when we took a picture for Instagram, it looks like I'm an ogre. I showed somebody that picture just the other day because it makes me really look like I'm like 12 feet tall and like 900 pounds or something.
Right now we're both running 27.5, and then we each have a hardtail, and those are plus bikes. But
so that's almost a 29er then.
Height wise. And Steve actually is kind of softening to 29ers, like for certain things, like when I was like super duper pregnant toward the end of my pregnancy, he demoed a bike. I can't even remember what it was, but it was a 29er, like kind of a lower travel bike, just something for like smooth trails when you just want to just crank out the miles. And it was actually really, really, really fun. So Steve's kind of softened to the idea a little bit. One problem that I struggle with, which I feel like is getting a little bit better with 29ers, but a lot of 29ers with the geometry of the bike, sometimes at slow speeds when you're steering with the bars, I mean, most of the time you can lean the bike, but at slow speeds when you're turning with the bars, sometimes when you turn the bars, the tire will kick your foot off the pedal, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. There's an overlap. And so
almost like a road bike because they're not meant to turn, right?
Yeah. So on small frames, like that's a little bit freaky for me. Granted, there aren't many.
Oh yeah, because it'd be even bigger for you guys on on a smaller frame. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Because you guys both ride a small, right?
Steve
Or maybe
usually
Steve the
rides
medium?
a medium, but every now and then he'll ride it. He does. You're right. He does have some small bikes as well.
Yeah.
Just because, it just depends on the reach and kind of what he's going for. But
I have a theory on why Steve's growing on the 29er, and I think it has everything to do with the Chameleon. Because that thing, I've been riding mine with the 29 wheels on it right now. I'm getting ready to build some 27.5 plus, but I bought the 29er build so that I could have some perspective on it. Mm-hmm. And this is actually the first 29er that I've ridden that I've actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
So riding 29ers is different for me. My objective becomes speed, and I kind of turn into one of those Strava guys and see how much speed I can carry through stuff. But I've ridden a lot of 29ers I don't love. And the problem, I was hoping we'd talk geometry, but I won't go down that rabbit hole too much. I love talking short person geometry because right now bikes are getting really good at working for tall people. But the whole wheel size debate is not helping small people.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
If your reach is shorter than your chainstay, you've got a problem. And every size small bike has that, where the distance from your the vertical distance from your bottom bracket to where you grab the bars to the front of the fork is shorter than the back end of your bike. That's a problem. And people who ride medium and large and extra large frames, that never happens. But so let's say you got a 450 mil reach. Imagine having a 450 mil or 470 mil chainstay. That's ridiculous. And it would totally change how the bike rides. And with 29ers, you can only fit, the shortest you can get on a 29er is 415 on like a Trek Stash, and that has the crazy curved seat tube.
Right.
And you have to do that on a hardtail. I've never seen a full suspension with shorter than 430 chainstays. Yeah. So that means if you're going to have equal reach with 430, that you need a 430 reach, and that's usually size mediums.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are like, 29ers are faster, they're better, and these bike employees are pushing them so hard. Even 27.5, there are a lot of women 5'2" that can ride 29ers, but they're not learning how to bunny hop. They're not hitting dirt jumps. They're not doing all the technical moves in Sedona, maybe one or two. But when you're that small, even a 27.5, like my inseam, I can't straddle a 29er tire. I can't fit it between my legs. My legs are shorter than a 29-inch wheel. So like that really comes into play. As fast and fun and flowy as they are. And surprisingly, I haven't ridden the Chameleon in 29 form yet. I need to.
Yeah, for me, the 29er this is the best way I can say it. I always just felt like it picked its own line and it wasn't twitchy enough. And even for me going to 27.5 from 26, I struggled with it. And it was like, okay, I can see this rollover helps and stuff like that. And I felt like that was the compromise. But the 29ers, for the most part, when you get into that real rocky, technical, kind of twitchy kind of stuff, they just don't shine there, unless you're like mashing over the top of stuff. And that's just the way I feel, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people like the things that you just mentioned that you don't like about it. That's what a lot of people like about it. So
yeah, exactly.
And I think it's gotten easier. There's that phrase, there's no such thing as a bad bike these days. And I completely disagree with that phrase. And a lot of people disagree with me, and that's fine. But I think what's happened is people have now used that excuse to not have to learn about geometry or suspension characteristics or any of that. And now they just use it as an excuse of, therefore, I'm justified to buy the cheapest bike on the planet and it'll be the best bike for my situation without doing the due diligence and research.
So I feel like there's a couple of things that you really need to pay attention to. Like one of them is definitely like head tube angle. Yeah. What would be another one?
I feel like chainstay, for short people, because like when you're trying to learn a bunny hop, I'm trying to like learn to wheelie. Like it's a matter of leverage. The longer that chainstay is, if you're a small body, it's so much harder to get the leverage to get the front end of the bike up. Also, and so it matters a ton if you're a short person. And so like I mean, I think in an ideal universe, like bikes would have wheel sizes that are relative to the side of the rider. Granted, there would be some amount of wheel size based on what kind of riding and what kind of characteristics you want. But
I think you'll see that. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what's happening. I think that's why you still see some people going out and buying 26-inch bikes that are shorter, because they can have more fun on them for whatever reason.
Totally.
Well,
And that's why some of these really tall guys are like going out and buying these 29ers and like wishing they had bigger wheels. I totally get it.
31s. I'd love to see that for the really big guys. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, think about a dude that's like 6'7", 6'8", you know what I mean? Like even on an extra large bike, that would be like me almost riding like a medium. Or
It's
a small,
true. Yeah.
it's just like, it would just be like, I'd feel like a praying mantis on the thing, like.
So go look up the Dirty Sixer. There's this guy that makes 36-inch bikes for Shaq and big basketball players. And when they're on them, they just look proportional, but it's got a 36-inch unicycle wheel.
Right.
And they just look right. And so I think we've got some work to do there. I think we could go bigger. But I think people latch onto wheel size also as a way to not have to research the bike or do test rides, and they just say 29ers are better, therefore every 29er is a better bike for me than every 650B, or flip-flop that, and it's one part of the equation. And I also think a lot of people, and I've fallen victim to this, you buy a bike for the hardest trail you've ever ridden that you ride maybe 2 times a year, because you once rode it and you were able to clean this insane section and it made you feel like the man. So therefore you got this monster bike that can handle that. But for 99% of your rides, it's the wrong bike.
That's why I've been really loving the Chameleon lately.
Yeah.
It's just like having a bike that actually fits a lot of the cross country, like all of us mountain bikers do. We're not hitting the gnar on every trail.
No.
You know what I mean? So like a good cross country bike that's maybe slack like the Chameleon, or if I had something that was like that, with a short travel, if it was full suspension, like that. I've been surprised. The fork that came on my bike, I'm going to change it out eventually, but right now it's 120 millimeters of travel. And when I first got that bike, I was riding out there in Granite Bay where you guys and I had ridden together. And I came up to some rock, and it was like my first day riding the bike. And I like stopped. It was like this little like 6-inch like little step down. And I was just like, I don't know if this thing can handle. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like I was just like nervous, and I've been that was my first time on flats. But I just remember thinking like, I don't know what this can handle. And now that I'm more comfortable on the bike, I'm like, dude, this thing can handle a lot. And 120 millimeters of travel is like, I'm still not feeling like I didn't feel like I hit the bottom of it, and even with the hardtail, where I was expecting, because I haven't been on a hardtail since the 90s, so I was expecting like just to get my brain rattled, and holy crap, what do you know? If you have a dropper that can get all the way down to the seat post, like you're or to the seat collar, I mean, your legs are a whole ton of suspension, It's like, this thing has been great. Like I definitely feel it on the chatter sometimes whenever you're sitting through the chatter, like maybe in the lower back. But other than that, I've been digging it.
And Steve and I, both of us have plus tires on our hardtails, and I think the plus tires really pair very well with the hardtails, because it's kind of like you said, you've got your body that you can kind of add to the suspension, and you can also kind of add the plus tires a little bit.
Right.
You can trim down a little bit more. And
are you guys running Cushcore too?
No, I think Steve should be running Cushcore in the rear, because he's done some pretty big drops this year, and there have been a few tire fatalities.
I will tell you that the guys at Cushcore would be upset to hear you think about only doing it in one wheel. But,
he likes us to run both.
Right. But that's what I was really thinking about with the 27.5 plus. And I'm definitely a lot bigger guy. So that the idea of having that stability in the tire, I think will really add a lot for somebody my size. I mean, you guys are a lot smaller than me, so I could see where maybe you're not thinking that it's worth it, But that's what I was thinking, is like, put the 27.5 plus on this thing, throw the Cushcore in there, and then really like I can't see how I won't be like just crazy happy about it. I want to put a 36 in there and bump it up to, or bump it down to 140 millimeters. I think that's what Steve's doing too.
Yeah, I actually have a 160 36 on it because it's a 27.5 fork. And getting all nerdy here. So if you compare 100 mil 100 mil Fox 36 27.5 fork to 100 mil Fox 36 29er fork, the 29er is 2 centimeters taller axle to ground, even though they're the same travel. And so since I don't have a 29er fork, if I had a 29er, I'd run 140. Since I don't have I run a 27.5 at 160, which gives me the same head angle, same axle to crown as if I had a 140. But we took the Chameleon out today on a really hard enduro course with big old slabs and 4-foot drops and rocks the size of beach balls, and I had more fun on it than I did on my enduro bike on that stuff. Me and my buddies, we all grabbed our hardtails today and we just shredded that mountain. It was so much fun.
I have just been, and man, I hate doing this. Like lately, I've been on the freaking hardtail bandwagon because obviously I bought this bike, but it's really changed my perspective. You know, for a long time, like I said, I've been riding full suspension for a long time. I've never touched a hardtail, and one of the things that just like, I can't say this enough to people that are thinking about going and getting into mountain biking. You don't need a full suspension bike.
Amen.
Like you don't. I would not have said that 3 months ago before I had this bike. But now it's like, no, you don't. You don't. And the way that, like, when you get out of the saddle and you pedal, holy cow, the thing's like a rocket. Like you don't, like, I don't understand how to tell that to somebody that maybe hasn't like ridden both kinds of bikes, and like they're like, what do you mean? It's like you feel that power when you pedal. It's like the thing is like, you know.
It's super fun. Sad news, I'm going to be selling my Chameleon and getting another hardtail, but I do love hardtails.
Yeah, I have a Orbea Laufey, and I love that thing. I take it out all the time because, I mean, I still love my full suspension as well, but the fun thing about riding a hardtail is it will expose all your flaws, you know, like,
yeah,
it teaches you to pick good lines and not be sloppy. And, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, lazy riders can get away with, I mean, if you're not picking line choice and just kind of letting off the brakes and going, a full suspension is for you. But once you have some fundamentals like cornering and unweighting and using your human suspension and reading the trail, man, hardtails make boring trails super exciting. We're going to do a hardtail ride on South Mountain, actually. I can't wait to do it. Oh, wow.
So you ride flats or you ride clips, Steve?
So I rode clips for 15 years because it's a rite of passage. It's a way to show people that you're hardcore.
Right.
And in the 90s, like if you didn't have, first of all, we didn't have good shoes. We were all riding Vans with platform pedals or those bear trap, croupy, like shin eaters.
Yeah, I've talked about this too. Every time I mention that stuff, like nobody gets what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Apparently we're freaking old, Steve.
I know. I've been riding for 20 years and 15 of them are on clips, but I recently switched back. 5 years ago, I switched to flats and my cornering improved within 3 rides. And there are 1 or 2 obstacles like the waterfall South Mountain that I currently cannot do with flats. I probably can't do it with clips, but I have a better chance if I did have clips, but I'm not going to put them on just for 1 obstacle. But I love flats.
I've tried flats now. That's what I'm running on the Chameleon. And that's my first time actually ever being on flats on a mountain bike. When I got into mountain biking in the 90s, we used toe clips. And then whenever I got back, like I took a break, got back into mountain biking, I got right into clipless.
Yeah.
And I've definitely noticed that there's a bunch of stuff that my skill sets got screwed up with by using the clips. Like the first time, like I used to be able to bunny hop over guardrails and stuff like that, you know? And the first time I got on the Chameleon, I hit a little rock drop or whatever. My feet came off the pedals. I like smashed the jewels, you know, like it was an ugly situation, but it was like, it made me realize like, oh wow, like there's like like I am not putting my heels down in corners, and like the flats are like two things that I have to back up and say is yes, shoes and pedals have come a long way because wow, those things are like glue now. But then that like the body mechanics of how to ride, like what you were saying, you definitely notice that.
Totally. And the clips still have their place. And if I were racing cross country, there's no doubt I'd have them. If I were racing period, I'd probably put them on. But like
I still feel like a little more locked in like the chunk at speed. But I haven't been riding them long enough. Like, but I'm not putting flats on the Bronson anytime soon.
Sure.
But I'm definitely digging riding the clips.
What most people do wrong, a lot of our mountain bike technology transferred over from road bike technology. And I feel like especially clipless shoes have as well. And where the cleat position is the same on a size 9 as it is on a size 14. And a lot of the like road bike cleats are way up by the toe or the ball of your foot. And I think when people ride flats, a lot of them have their foot position way too far. Their foot's too far back. So they actually have like a lot of people run the ball of their foot behind the spindle. You should have the ball of your foot in front of the spindle and almost ride more in the middle of your pedal. That will prevent those nasty shin flippers. Because if you're used to clipless where the cleat is way up by the toe and you try to ride that way on flats, you're gonna work pedals left and right, and you're not gonna have the torque. There's a guy here in Tucson who I really respect. He's ridden the Arizona Trail many times and raced it. And he used to be a pro road biker. And to train to have an efficient pedal stroke, his coach put him on flats on his road bike until he had the proper pedal stroke, engaging the right muscles everywhere. And so I'm not saying flats are for everybody in every situation, but there are a lot of awful habits that develop on clipless pedals, and I think a lot of people switch to clipless pedals too early before they have fundamental skills that they could have learned on flats. But who cares? I mean, it's mountain biking. We do this for fun. Ride whatever the heck you want to ride, and if you gain bad habits, who cares?
Yeah, totally. As long as you're having a grin on your face by the time you get off your bike, then you're doing it right. You know?
Amen. But yeah, so I ride flats exclusively.
I definitely think I wouldn't have the confidence to go for some of the technical climbs that I do if I was clipped in, and that's just a personal thing. It's not even to say that one is better or worse, but I think whatever gives you confidence to keep progressing is good.
Yeah, definitely.
I try way more stuff. Like I crashed like everyone the first month I got clips, and like pull up to the stop sign and forget to pull your foot out and you just go down. But after that month,
tell me the story. Tell me the real story. Let's hear it. Come on, let's hear. I'll give you guys. I'll tell you guys my bail learning clipless, and if you do yours.
Yeah, I was just riding to the trailhead as a kid. I was 14, and
you were doing clipless at 14.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? BMX. So BMX, the kids were racing in clips at 2 years old before they could even stand at the start gate on their own. Their dads would be holding them in the wheel, holding their wheel so they don't fall over, and the kids were in clipless. And
how old are you, Steve?
I'm mid-30s.
Oh, okay. So I'm a little older than you.
This is a couple years ago. The kids were riding clipless, and
I was just trying to
pros doing it, and they thought it must be faster, must be better. Well, I can't remember who, USA BMX, I think, owns it now, but they came out and said, look, until you're racing at the expert level, you're not allowed to use clips. Yeah. Because there were kids crashing or they'd fall over and they couldn't get back on and couldn't get their cleats back in. And it was actually causing some big problems. Issues. Anyway, so I was 14, got clips. First time I set them super loose. Actually, I didn't set them loose. I should have set them loose. Got up to a stop sign on my way to a trail, pulled the brakes, came to a complete stop, and forgot I was in clips and just went over to the side and had one of the worst wrecks of my life. Yeah.
I was I had the clips on my bike. I did a few rides, even had a couple of accidents where I clipped out and I was like, dude, I got this, man. Totally got this. This is so easy. I don't know why people are talking about this. So I go out and I do this ride called Salmon Falls. It's here local, and it's an out and back it's 7 miles out, obviously 7 miles back, unless you screw that up. And so 14-mile ride, had a bunch of little mishaps along the way, clipped out every time, no problem, man. And I come rolling back into the parking lot out of the trailhead. And I tell you what, I've only seen like 4 or 5 like park rangers that were women. And this one just so happened to be like the unicorn that was like extremely good looking. So I come rolling into the trailhead, looking all like a badass muddy mountain biker, my tattoo and my beer gut, and I come to a stop and just freaking couldn't get my foot out. Just eat crap, just all gravel everywhere. And I remember her running over and she's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Nope, just bruised the shit out of my ego though."
Hey, it worked. You got to talk to her.
Yeah, right.
You engage her sympathies. Did you cry?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I probably did. There was some tears.
It's like the modern version of the Sandlot, but she didn't have to give mouth to mouth.
Right. I should have just pretended like I passed out.
There you go. That would have been good.
Yeah, but that was it,
So I don't crash because of the clips, but when I'm sessioning stuff, there are definitely lines I won't try because the consequence of not clipping out is so huge that on flats, I'm like, yeah, I got this, and I'll just go try it. So I find myself trying way more stuff and succeeding at way more stuff. And I also ride a lot more weight through the bottom bracket when I'm not clipped. I
can tell you honestly, with clips, I have I don't feel like there's any difference in me getting off my pedals with clips and not clips.
Awesome.
Like the only time that I have problems with getting out of my clips is after I've done like a long segue of how I never have problems getting out of my clips. Like that's the one day I did a video on my channel. It's called Trails and Fails. It was while I was driving up there, I think it was one of my son's first rides and clips, and I was just telling him about how, don't worry about it. I can do it just as many times. It's so easy. I never have a problem. And we're going up this little punchy climb section, and for whatever reason, that's the day that I couldn't get out. And I fell over into some poison oak, landed upside down, like sitting on my wheel that I just got rebuilt that I was worried about busting, couldn't sit up because I was at such an angle that it was oh God, it was just super comical. But usually that's the only time that I have a problem.
That's good. My goal was I'll switch to flats until I can manual 100 feet, and then I'll go back to clips. And I still can't manual 100 feet. And so I'm still in that zone. And now we teach so many new riders, especially women, that whatever we wear for our gloves or whatever saddle we're using or whatever tire we're using, they will go out and buy.
Right.
And if I'm riding clips, they will think they need clips to succeed. And so a lot of it too now is I want to show them that you don't need clipless pedals to get up really hard stuff or to get down really hard stuff. And that I kind of want them to feel comfortable choosing whether they want clips or not.
It was really interesting to me earlier when Tess said that she preferred clips for climbing, because to me, the first thing that came to mind, for me with clips, I want them for the rowdy downhill, the climbing part, I could care less.
My feet do not bounce off the pedals. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of problems. It works for me, and I think there's a lot of silliness this is how you need to do it, or that's how you need to do it. But I just think whatever gives you the confidence to keep progressing on the bike is the right thing to do, whatever that is, for whatever kind of riding or wherever you're at in your progression of things. And as long as you feel like you're progressing, you're doing something right, whatever kind of pedals you're running. So
yeah.
So how about this? What's the thing that you guys like the least about living in a trailer?
Finding a place to put it.
Yeah, that's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
Finding a place to put it is pretty dang stressful. I mean, we actually do pretty well living in a small space. Mm-hmm. I will say we're very DIY, fix it ourselves kind of people. So that's one thing that's tricky is if there's something that we're working on as a project, a very small work area to work on something pretty much takes up the whole trailer. So that's always tough when it's a day that we're fixing something and it just seems like the whole trailer is a crazy like mess of like tools and things like that. But the good news is when you clean a space this small, takes like 5 minutes. Like, mop, dusted, picked up, done.
Right. So what's the
sweet bike shed like you guys? All the YouTubers have these cool bike man caves, and we're limited to 2 bikes each, which is probably a healthy thing. Mm-hmm. We each have a hardtail and an enduro bike. We ride Spot Rollicks, which are absolutely amazing.
You guys you said earlier that you guys like the kayak. You guys have kayaks too?
Uh-huh.
Are they on the rig, or?
We didn't bring them right now. Mm-hmm. We leave them with family. Yeah, we have inflatable kayaks, and we leave them with family. Same with our tools, and they can use them all while we're not there. And then when we want to use them, we just swing by and pick them up, and then use them for a few months and drop them back off.
You guys have solar on that thing too, or?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We just put it on. It's totally off grid. We're running off Tesla batteries from a wrecked Tesla. It's a sick setup. So
it's pretty amazing. We have an insane amount of solar on top of this thing. There's not much roof up there. It's mostly solar.
It's
right on. So what do you guys like the most about the trailer life?
I feel like Steve and I are even like better friends than when we set off on our journey. And now, like,
because just to fill people in, like, you guys at one point had a house, kind of were doing the domesticated thing, right?
Yeah.
We had a 3,800 square foot house on a third of an acre with a pump track in the backyard. I do miss the pump track, but we were camped 60 nights a year, and we're like, why are we paying a mortgage if we spend 60 nights in a tent and we're happier in the tent? And we had dreams of filling that with a big family, and that didn't happen. And so when we couldn't have kids, priorities change, and we kind of took an assessment, and we're like, okay, we have more house than we want, and somehow all these rooms keep filling up with furniture and stuff without us even buying it. And let's simplify. If we're happy a week backpacking with everything we can carry on our back, we don't need stuff. And so we got rid of all our stuff.
Yeah. And so like our life then was like, I had my career, Steve had his career. And then on the weekends, it felt like that was when we lived, like that was when we'd go backpacking and mountain biking, and, every, quarterly, maybe we'd go on like a 5 or 10 day trip, doing like cool, crazy backcountry stuff. And that was when we felt most alive. And we just thought, man, wouldn't it be so cool if we could like always do this? And so now we do, we still both have our separate jobs, but we're able to live in the same space. And like, it's really fun now. It's to the point where we're so used to being together all the time that like, if one of us has to be gone for a couple nights, it's like, oh, like.
I have this theory that people that do things that suck together are like much more closer, So
yeah,
like,
to other people, this life sucks. I prefer this life.
But what I'm saying is like, like going out and doing a mountain bike ride, or doing a big hike, or, doing anything challenging, like there's parts of that suck, what I mean? And right. And so like when you've done that with somebody else and they relate with that, like you have a little better bond. And so that's why like there's like the survivor thing, where people like end up being in like getting married or whatever. And like I think it's the same thing though. It's like, you go out and you do these things together, and there's parts of it that are struggling and overcoming like fears or obstacles, and making that part of your life and your relationships life. Like there's no way that you guys aren't going to be closer. So like I feel like I'm envious of you guys for the time that you get to spend with each other in that manner, than that, like, I think a lot of people just kind of forget about, Yeah,
it's incredible. We're super blessed, and we've kind of carved out the life that we want with each other, and it's awesome. They're like, you can't just go in another room if you're mad at the person and just shut the door and go watch your TV show. We have to resolve it immediately because we're in the same space. I mean, this thing is 150 square feet. That's our house.
Yeah. And it's not like we agree on everything and stuff like that. Like, that's not what relationships are about. Like, we're still individuals, and like, we're still going to always have like our different perspectives on things. But yeah, like what living in the small space teaches you to do is to resolve conflict in a harmonious kind of way, you know, quickly.
In a healthy way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like Steve said, you can't run away from each other in a space this small. So yeah, you just learn to, if anything, just be more respectful of each other's individuality and learn to work through conflict in as harmonious a way as possible, and remembering that like we're both on the same team, and yeah, so it's cool.
So those of you guys that are listening to this as a podcast right now, the baby is like seriously out cold. Like if there was drool like sliding over the side of his cheek and dripping down on the floor, I wouldn't doubt it. So one of the things, though, segue from that, one of the things that I saw a van life kind of YouTuber talk about recently when they were saying, you know, some of the difficulties of living like that is like you have no personal space, and it's like me and my lady, like when you go to the bathroom, you're in a different room, and it's like when you're in a little van, you're in the same room, you know. So there's definitely like there's no dropping a deuce and getting away with it.
Yeah.
Anyone who's in that space is gonna know.
Yeah, right. So you definitely have to like. It was funny though to hear some of the things where it was them talking about, you know, it's not all the drone shots and the beauty, you know, like there is some spots that like it kind of sucks, you know, or is different, you know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's not all roses. It's tricky. There's hard things. I think the hardest part is sharing one vehicle.
Yeah, that's true.
That's way harder than
you don't realize how like having your own car is like freedom, you know, like not that we're in captivity, but it's just kind of like, oh, dang it, I was going to go to that, but you need the car. Okay, can you drop me off? And you know what I mean? Where you used to be able to just be like, okay, you're going to go do your thing today, and I'm going to go do my thing today.
But I like it. Before, when we had our separate lives, we just kind of had our separate friends. We'd kind of, at the end of work, go do our separate things and maybe see each other from 10 to midnight, and that was about it. Now we see each other, you know, 16 hours a day plus. Working at home, I get to watch my baby learn to sit up and roll over for the first time, and I mean, that's what really matters to us is family and spending time together. And that's what it's all about. And we love the way that this lifestyle lets us do that.
Yeah. It'd be really hard to go back to working jobs where we weren't able to be together all day. And we realize, you know, I'm grateful for all the people who are doctors and nurses and cashiers at Home Depot and, you know, things that can't be done from home. So I realize that it's not everybody can work from home for society to work and function the way that it does, but we feel very fortunate to be doing what we're doing. For sure.
So I'm going to ask you guys a tough question, and I know this because we had this conversation in Downeyville, and now that you have the little Dusty, what do you think the situation is going to be when it comes to school time?
Yeah, so I would. Ideally for me at the moment, I love to start putting down roots somewhere. By the time she's school age, like I want her to be able to have like friends that she gets to play with on a regular basis and have that stability that comes along with being in one place. And
so I'm gonna follow this up with a little please tell the world the reason why. Weren't you a homeschooled kid yourself?
Yeah, I was. And, you know, like a lot of people do it and it is awesome for them. But, you know, like there's some good things about homeschooling, but having been through it, it's just not really what I want for my kid. I want her to be able to go to school and have a best friend there. And I feel like school is about more than just academics, which makes some homeschoolers cringe because they're like, it should just be about academics. But I think your peers in that daily interaction and environment, your peers, you guys teach each other a lot of social cues.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot to be learned there.
Yeah. So for me, you know, being homeschooled K through 12, you know, pretty much, there were some of those social cues that I had to pick up on later on rather painfully. So I think I've come out a relatively well-adjusted human being. And you know, like hopefully I don't enrage all of the homeschoolers out there. Like I know some people do it and it's awesome for them and their family. I think that's that's great. But having experienced it firsthand, I feel like I'm at least as entitled to my opinion as the next person. And I just want to do it differently for my daughter. So.
And your best friend had the same experience.
Yeah, one of my best friends, we met in college, and she had been homeschooled too. And so that was something we really connected on because she'd had a similar experience. So
I've been questioning whether, I mean, my kids are both, my son just moved out. My daughter is just a couple years away from it. And I had thought to myself whether or not I would want to send another, like if I had a kid today, like if I would send them through school. And there's some stuff with school where I feel like it's like, I don't know if I would want to do that. But on the other hand, like the social aspect, what you're talking about, I definitely feel like that's very necessary. I kind of have this like idea that I think homeschoolers are going to start getting together and doing like a 20 kid freaking classroom of quote unquote homeschool and bringing kids through a program like that instead of just doing it like with your own kids. I don't know where the legal part of that is or how that all plays out, but I really think that people are going to do that to like be able to get away from maybe some of the politics and things that school teaches that maybe you don't want your children to learn, and then but still be able to like give them a good education and give them the opportunity to like learn how to deal with other people that they don't like and all those things that come along with it. You know what I mean? Like that's part of school, Yeah.
Right. And those things do exist. They call them in homeschooling, they call them co-ops.
Oh, okay.
Like
see, I invented something that's already out there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think you're right. I think we may see more and more of those homeschooling co-ops. And, there's also charter schools, for people who maybe don't have the kind of budget to send their kids to private schools. So I think there are a lot of options, a lot of alternatives to help, give your kid the opportunity to have other teachers and other mentors. And it's cool. There's definitely options. I mean, that's another thing too, that I feel is great about sending your kids to school is having them learn to be accountable to someone else. And maybe sometimes having a teacher that they don't like. And,
I think some of it too is like, even just like having a life outside of yours that they only can tell you about. Like, how do I explain this? Like, for example, I don't go to my daughter, like all my daughter's like games and stuff like that, because I feel like she should have life experience that I'm not there, that she can come back and be like, hey, this is what happened, Dad. And I really like I did this and I did that. Like if I was one of those parents that was like every single game, it's like, what do you where are you teaching them independence in that?
Yeah. It gives them a little bit of autonomy, I guess, is kind of
time to be themselves, like what if they want to, like whatever it is, like I feel like in the age that we grew up, a lot of our parents were, there weren't many helicopter parents when we grew up. So like a lot of us got to like leave it when the sun came up or when we woke up, and we would come back when the sun was going down, and God, like kids don't have that anymore. And there's so much that we learned out there during the day like that, and that's part of why I like mountain biking. It reminds me of that, like go out and just explore and come back, I think that's really important.
There's a movement right now with a whole bunch of families that travel full-time like we do with, 5 to 10 kids. And there's this movement called road schooling. And they do get in these groups of 20 or 30, and they'll go down to Santa Barbara and learn about marine biology for a month. And it'll be like a month-long school field trip vacation sort of thing. And they get great education. And so there's interesting things going on there. My opinionated opinion is those kids that we meet that do that are super good at talking to adults.
Yeah,
they're not so great at talking to other and interacting with other kids. And that's changing as those groups get bigger, but who knows? We'll keep our options open. And 5 years from now, the climate could be totally different in the education world.
Yeah, who knows?
I'm a professional educator. I love education. I love unique ways to teach people. Probably the best part about being a parent is watching her learn. It's so fun.
Yeah.
That's interesting what you said about the kids being able to talk to adults. I grew up like in a kind of we moved a lot, you know, so like I always had to reintroduce myself to people. And I think that I kind of grew up in that manner as well, where I really related well with adults because I always had to like communicate with them. And I think that's what has made me like the communicator that I am. You know, obviously I'm not very shy, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, I do remember like as a kid, like or more so like as like a teenager, like the people that I enjoyed hanging out with weren't always the people that were my own age. They were like 6-7 years older than me or something, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the reality of it is one thing that is cool about the kind of one room school thing where, you know, kids are interacting and also learning and being taught by kids of other ages is because that's what it's like in the workplace. You know, you can be 24 years old and fresh out of grad school and go to some big company, and you're not just working with other 24-year-olds. You know, there's also a guy on your team who is 48, you know, like, so there's good sides of that too. But I think there are lots of ways to create opportunities for kids to interact with people from different ages. So I don't know, it's tough. It's tough to say. I think on the outset, I'd love to have like a little bit more stability by the time she's school age, but like
we're
Steve
still gonna
said,
travel like crazy in the summer.
We still want to be able to kind
of.
Yeah,
I could definitely see you guys. I mean, you guys will still be doing the 4-day weekends and the 3-day weekends and the
you
whatever.
Won't be in school much.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I think as long as even going through like grade school and stuff like that, like as long as you're, I don't want to say good parents, but like interactive parents with your child, like you could take whatever the teacher needs to do on Friday and Monday and do a bunch of 4-day weekends, and the kid's not going to miss a beat as long as you are doing your end. A lot of people send their kids to school and they like, oh, I don't need to do anything. See you later. You know what I mean? And they like don't even bother helping them with homework, you know, and then they wonder why their education isn't that good. So I know without a doubt, you know, like that you could definitely accomplish whatever you want and still have some like, you know, have them maybe in some kind of public-ish school or private school or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Wherever we do settle down, it'll be a smaller town. That's one reason we hit the road, was our town was just growing so fast, and the traffic and the city life and that, it doesn't work real well with me. Our family's got a lot of mental illness, and nature is the great healer in our family. And so wherever we do settle down, we're on the lookout to find the perfect spot to settle down, but it'll be a small place with excellent access to nature, and that'll be a big part of our life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always like about you guys, and I'm going to mention this for the people that are listening, I just really like the way that you guys look at each other when you're talking. like honestly, like you're interested in what this person is saying, and you can see it in your body language. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we're best friends.
Yeah, no, dude, that's awesome. That's really good, dude. There's so many people that strive for that, man. You guys are doing a good job of it. At least as far as when the camera's rolling.
That's right. I
So
think
what
one question we get on YouTube is, how did he end up with such a babe like her? And it's because we respect each other, and because Tess realizes there's more than the outer surface when choosing a life mate. And I'm glad that I got such a babe, but like, as cliche as it is, I fell in love with who she is, not what she looks like. And
likewise, you know,
and
like,
we have such a great relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think, someone that you're gonna like live with and share the same space with. Like when you meet someone that you really click with and you're like, I could be around this person all the time, you go with that.
You know, my lady and I, we've been together quite some time, and we have a very similar relationship. But I think there's one thing that we've mentioned along the way is like the looks aren't always going to be there. You know, someday we're going to be old, and you really have to freaking like the person that you're with. You know what I mean? And like, we really enjoy the time that we spend together. We really enjoy like tackling life together or going to new places and just seeing what that culture is about. And like, both of our personalities like feed off of that, and that's something special, you know, like that's what you're looking for. Like, to me, it's not about like what somebody looks like, it's like who they are and how much, like, how compatible you actually are, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people forget about that. They're just like, you know, kind of keying up on some other stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Another key for us is we went to therapy before there were problems. We have family members that let things get ugly and then had to go to therapy and work out the mess. But we kind of look at it like getting a checkup at the doctor or going to the dentist before you have cavities. So we met with a counselor that's amazing. And we just said, hey, we're doing pretty good, but I'm sure there's things we could do better. And we met with her before there were issues, and we just check in with her from time to time. And man, that has helped us so much. And there are a lot of counselors out there that are totally off their rocker and are not helpful. But if you find a great one, man, that's my biggest advice, is go before there's problems.
I know. Like, if I was rich, that's what I would give to like anyone I knew who was like getting married or just in like a committed long-term relationship. If I was rich, I would just give them all like 5 free counseling sessions, pay for them to go. Cause yeah, it's helping you have the skills to communicate better.
There's a stigma with going to counseling, you know, like there's a huge stigma. And there's a friend of mine that's going through some stuff right now. And he's going to counseling personally and trying to do some couples counseling as well. And he's just, you know, definitely come to that realization, like, wow, like this is actually really good. And I unfortunately was one of those people that always thought, you know, I can figure this crap out on my own. I got this. Like I'm logical. They're not going to tell me anything that's not logical, and blah blah blah. And I went through a divorce because of that. So, you know, and we were one of those couples that probably waited way too long. And but through that process of going to a counselor, a lot of times they're just telling you stuff that you actually do know, but I can't tell you how much more receptive you are when somebody else says it. Even if it's like, you're like, yeah, that's totally what I was thinking. But when somebody else says it, that's that neutral ground. I don't, it's worth the money. It's worth the money just to hear somebody else say it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I like my counselor, she's awesome because I like having things that I can practice, you know, like homework. So she, you know, she knows me and she'd give me homework and things to work on. And like, that's how I function. And it's cool. It's cool when you have like a good counselor who kind of gets to know you and, you know, what hits home with you.
I think it's just, I think it's really good for us to talk about this and to take that stigma away. Like you can have a good relationship and go to counseling. You can have a relationship that's good and having a hard time. Go to counseling. Like like really, like if you ride mountain bike and you're like, hey, I might go to a skills clinic. Why the hell wouldn't you go to a skills clinic for your freaking relationship?
Yeah. Like, easy. Relationships aren't easy.
We were all totally agree. We were all raised by mortals, so we all have baggage, and our parents have baggage, and their parents have baggage.
Totally. And especially the dudes. I feel like women are a little more likely to be open to counseling, where men were way too macho.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the issue, probably, right?
I mean, it goes both ways. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, but yeah, a lot of the dudes find out I go to counseling regularly, and they're like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that?
That's what I'm saying. It's just the stigma.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the more people that talk about like whether that they've done that or that they've had positive effects out of it, then, you know, I think the best thing is like what you said, like if you find a good one and basically I'll tell you, you'll know when you have a good one. Because like if you're talking to one that's shitty, like you're gonna walk out of there feeling like, oh, that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Like if you walk out of there feeling like that didn't feel very good, after like at least give them 2 or 3 times to really prove that they're not really good. But because they might be telling you something you just don't want to hear. But
sure.
After that 2 or 3 times, then yeah, dude, like, hey, move on.
Yeah.
So what do you guys see for the channel in the next like what does success look like for the Bestie Bedded channel?
Oh god, that is such a good question. I mean, the cool thing about growing Dusty Betty, even though we talked about how, we hate viewers and subscribers.
No, we don't.
No, we don't hate the viewers and subscribers. I love growing the channel and I love growing the influence. Yeah, I want to keep growing the channel, and I want to keep growing my skills, continue inspiring other women, find more opportunities to meet and connect with people. Something that I've thought about is like getting to a point where I can become a coach maybe someday, like I do like, kind of just with friends, kind of unofficially coaching people and stuff. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to cross over with Dusty Betty and opportunities to help other people grow their skills. And yeah, hopefully keep creating videos and traveling to more places, meeting with more people. And
so you guys have a Patreon too, right?
Yeah, so I do have a Patreon, and that's where I post all of my meetups. Occasionally I'll partner with like some of the companies that I work with and do meetups with them. But most of my meetups are through Patreon. That's one of the biggest ways that I provide a little bit of extra value to them is it's just a good way to orchestrate ways to connect with people and ride and hang out. And it's a lot of fun. I've made a lot of friends with people who are on my Patreon, and that's been really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing to do with your audience is to go out there and experience life with them. I think that it's important, and I think part of building this community, I think for you guys is the same as me. It's like, it's not about getting some money off of this. It's like about like reaching out to people and like expanding your friend group and like having a good time. And I think that Patreon helps with that. So
yeah,
it definitely gives you like an opportunity to be able to like just, grab those hardcore supporters,
Yeah, totally. And even though, like I'm not getting rich off of doing Patreon, but it really does help because with my time having to be so divided.
I'll take her.
Okay. With with my time being so divided, having Patreon makes it something that I can justify if I can bring in a little bit of extra money to compensate me for the time that I'm doing this. Like it's something that I can continue doing. So
you guys do meetups like every time you're in a different city. You guys are doing meetups.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's one cool thing about the full-time travel is it's not just like maybe a couple festivals a year. Like like while we're in Tucson, like we've been doing like 2 meetups a month, and who knows, when we're traveling at a quicker rate in the summertime, we may be doing a meetup a week. So there's lots of opportunities to connect for sure.
And a lot of the meetups are beginners friendly. So a lot of guys bring their girls who have been on a ride or two, but aren't quite comfortable like going on their own. And not all of them are. We do hardcore stuff. We did a meetup at South Mountain too, but it's really cool to see people get inspired by Tess. Because when Tess goes to women's clinics, she comes back, like the first time she wanted to learn to bunny hop was coming back from Rome Fest and seeing the girls there that were bunny hopping, and she'd never seen a girl bunny hop before. And she's like, I want to do that now. And they really inspired her.
So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me here and talk to your fans. I can't wait till the next time that we get to hang out. Please tell me you guys are coming through Northern California sometime soon. You can park your trailer. Maybe we might be able to squeeze it in my driveway. I'm not sure.
We'll try.
We'll figure it out one way or another. At least we could put you out front. Like, what was that? Like National Lampoons, whenever it's like Uncle whatever came over there, just dumping his septic tank into. I would love for you guys to be able to come by, and at least we could maybe ride some stuff. If not, there's some places I'm sure you can park close by, and it would be fun to be able to have the little Dusty come by the house and you guys to meet my lady, as well as us go out and ride some more trails together.
Yeah, you're at the top of our list whenever we're in California.
Sweet. Well, like I said, once again, dude, I'm super, super happy that you guys spent the time with me tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody that threw up a super chat while we were talking. I want to say thank you for everybody that's been okay with the baby little Dusty crying the whole time. It's a little different, but hey, it is also part of life. And I love the fact that that was there, because honestly, it just shows, hey, we're just real people who are living our lives. Don't forget to subscribe and support both of our channels. It makes all of us happy. If you hit the thumbs up button, let's see how many thumbs up we got right now. We have, oh God, I hate it when we have 72 thumbs up and 88 people watching. Let's see if we can get that more than that right now. So you guys got about a minute to start hitting the thumbs up button. So definitely do that. Hit the thumbs up. If you guys like really cool shirts and gloves and hats, swing by Tasco. Dusty Betty's an ambassador for them. I'm telling you, I like their stuff too. I'm wearing the hat right now. I can't talk enough about that t-shirt though. I really like it. Have you guys tried that new shirt?
Yeah, those Sessions tees are cool. And
yeah.
If you do buy something from Tasco, please use coupon code DustyBetty. You'll save 10%. And Tasco gives us a little bit of gas money to be able to keep traveling around every time someone uses
there you go.
Dusty Betty. So that really helps us out.
Yeah, helps us meet more of y'all on the road.
Well, I'll throw that up there into the show more of it then, so that people know they can save 10%. That's great. Once again, like I said earlier, if you get a chance to swing by like Google or Apple and write a review for the podcast, that would be awesome, because I want to see that come up whenever I search mountain bike over there. Do you guys have a sign off on the channel?
Get Dusty.
Quick and easy, right?
Thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to connect.
Yeah.
We have been so busy lately. We haven't been connecting with people very good, and we've been lonely. So thank
we've been looking forward to this, because we're like, hey, like we haven't talked to Robert in ages. It's an opportunity to chat, and we get to include everybody else who's listening in on it.
That's awesome. I always have a great time hanging out with you guys, and as I did tonight, and I am totally looking forward to the next time. Until then, I want everybody to remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.